So you're looking to start therapy, and I'm sure for many of you, like most people, this has been something that you've probably been debating for quite some time, and things get in the way, whether it's finances, not sure if your partner will go, not sure if you even want to go. Things have gotten in the way to get you to this point, but now you've kind of reached that understanding that therapy is kind of what you need. The question is, how do you find a therapist? What questions should you ask? How to even start the process, and maybe what is therapy? So I wanted to create a video to talk a little bit about the process of therapy itself and things that you should learn along the way as you find a therapist for you. So what is therapy? Well, therapy can depend on the therapist, but for most part, it's really just about a conversation about what's happening for you, whether it's past or present, and really kind of just figuring out a way to not let that drag you down in your future. Very simple. There are other types of therapy like DBT, CBT, equine therapy, art therapy, sanctuary therapy. There are different modalities that a therapist can offer, but it's really going to be dependent on what issues that you're coming in with, because some modalities are suited for others and some maybe not so much. So it's really important when you start thinking about what you're seeking therapy for to understand what's going to be right for you. So the first step to really understanding how to find a therapist is really why you're seeking therapy in the first place, because that's going to help you tailor down the right fit for you, because you want someone that's going to understand exactly what you're going through. So whether you're in a relationship and you need some help, you might obviously want to stick with someone who does couples work, because they would be well trained in how to work with a couple. If you're seeking something to deal with past trauma, you want to deal with a trauma therapist who might be specialized in EMDR or CBT or those things like that are going to help you work on the trauma from your past. There are other things that you can come with, anxiety, issues with the transition, heartbreak, grief. Understanding what that thing is that's bringing you to therapy is going to help you not only communicate to a potential therapist what's going on, but also give you a better understanding of what you need for yourself. So take a step back and really just kind of think about what is it that you're going to therapy for, and if needed, write it down so that you understand kind of on a grand scale of things, what is it that you're dealing with. In that same breath, I would also sit down and think about what is it that you're hoping therapy is going to help you achieve. So you know what you're going through now, and hopefully with the help of therapy, what is this future self going to look like? What is this picture that you want for yourself? And is that something that this particular therapist is going to help you achieve? So sitting back and really asking yourself those two questions before even starting the process of looking for a therapist, I think is very important. So if anything, start there. So what is it that you're dealing with, and what is it that you're looking for yourself or your relationship in the future? So start there first. Once you have that, I think the second most important question to ask yourself is, how do you see yourself paying for this? And the reason why I asked this first is because that's going to help you dictate the next route in terms of finding a therapist. I have a lot of potential clients who call looking to see if I take insurance, and a lot of therapists do and a lot of therapists don't. So if you're looking to utilize your benefits, the best and easiest way to find a therapist that takes your plan is to contact your insurance company directly. First of all, ask them if they cover counseling, because some plans do and some plans don't. And then if you're looking for couples counseling, ask if they cover couples counseling as well, because again, some plans do and some plans don't. So making sure that you contact your insurance company, seeing what your benefits are, your deductible, all of those fancy insurance terms is super important, and it's going to help you in the long run at the beginning, versus going through the process of finding someone and then finding out they don't take your insurance. So contact your insurance company, ask them those questions, and then follow up with, can I have a list of providers that take my plan? Perfect. You have people that you know take your plan, and then it's just a matter of filtering through that list to find your perfect fit. And I'm also going to give you tips on how to do that. So if that's the route you want to do and you want to take insurance, definitely go that route. Another important question to ask your insurance company is, do they allow for out-of-network benefits? So out-of-network benefits allows you to seek a therapist who is not in network with their plan. So they're not going to be on that list. There could be someone that's you connected with before, and they would just provide a bill for you to get reimbursed by insurance. So definitely contact your insurance company, learn the ins and outs, the terms, how your insurance plan works. It's good to know for even not counseling how insurance works, if you plan on utilizing your benefits. If you plan on not using your insurance plan, figuring out what's going to work for you in your budget. That's not going to make therapy even more stressful than what it needs to be. Understand that therapists, we charge because we have expertise and we know what we're doing. But at the same time, we also understand that we don't want therapy to be, again, a stressful part in it. So understanding what your budget is super important. And when you do that, you want to factor in weekly sessions at the outset of therapy in order to provide consistency, in order to seek, the best change. There has to be consistency with the session. So we usually ask for a weekly schedule in order to help figure out and gauge how you're doing. Some therapists will consistently see weekly clients. Some therapists, once they see change, they might, reduce down to every other week and then once a month. It really depends on the therapist, and that's a question that you can potentially ask them. But when you're factoring in your budget, understand that at the outset, it might be every week. So you want to make sure that you can factor in and afford what you know that you need. And also understand that if you find the right fit and they're outside of your budget, there might be wiggle room with the therapist, and there might be changes that you need to make in order to afford that therapist. Because oftentimes, if you're looking for a specialty therapist who, knows what you're going through and maybe is not, like that type of modality is not necessarily very common in your area, there might be a higher fee for it. And it's not because they're being stingy, it's because, that's what they deserve. So understanding your budget at the outset is super important, and understanding what it is that you're looking for is also going to help you understand if that's going to be something within your budget. So definitely, sit down and think with yourself, what is it that you can afford? So once you have that, and you're still looking for a therapist, you can go to a lot of therapist directories that have a listing of therapists for you. One of the bigger ones is called Psychology Today. There's also Therapy Den. There's Mental Health Match, which is a good one. And then there's Open Path Collective. Open Path Collective is a listing of therapists who offer a sliding scale fee. So once you've figured out your budget and you think that you might need a sliding scale, Open Path Collective might be the best fit for you. There's a ton of other therapist directories, but those are usually just the top ones that a lot of people go to. Now, this is kind of where online dating and finding a therapist kind of meet together. So with therapist directories, a lot of therapists create their profile. They talk a little bit about, the work that they do, the clients that they see, their modality that they use. It's basically a dating profile for therapists. So I always recommend to go through, the directories and try to pick out like your top 5. Maybe write something that you resonate with in their profile, whatever the case may be. That's important to kind of just figure out and filter through. So I always say have a range of 5 therapists that you connect with the most from their profile. Now, once you find your 5 therapists, sit down and maybe think about the questions that you might want to ask them. Now, here are a few good questions that I think potential clients should ask their therapist. One is probably, what type of modality do they use? So do they do equine therapy, DBT, EMDR, whatever the case may be for the issue that you've already kind of thought through. What modality do they use in order to help treat those clients? Another good question to ask is, on average, how long do clients usually stay on their caseload? You know, obviously it's going to be dependent on a lot of different factors. And when it comes to therapy, understand that in order to seek change, work has to happen on the part of the client. The therapist too, I mean, we work, you know, but when you leave the session, that's when you're going to see the work kind of needs to happen, because you need to put those things in place, the things that you talked about in the office. So how often do they see their client is also a good question. Do they see them on a weekly basis, or do they see them every other week? Again, as I stated before, more often than not, they usually recommend every week, just to maintain some consistency and to kind of see how things are going. Another good question is to ask them the process of therapy. Do they have like a specific structure at the outset that, you know, might be important for you to know? You know, when I do couples therapy, I have a specific structure, and I talk about that with my clients that I speak with over the phone. So asking them the same questions, is there like a consistent process that they have per client? Another good question is do they offer in-person or online sessions? Online being a big thing now. You know, if that's something that you're interested in doing, that's definitely a good question to ask. If you're seeking for in-person, definitely asking that as well. Do they offer in-person sessions? Office availability, like in terms of time of schedule, is also a good question to ask. And understanding what your schedule looks like is also very important to know. And then basically how they think they can help you. Allow the therapist to speak directly to you and see if they understand your issues, and if they're able to kind of have a little bit of a sense of what you're going through and how they think that therapy can help. Give them the space to make sure that they understand what you're going through and how they can help. Simple as that. So once you've spoken with the top 5 therapists, maybe jot down some notes about what you liked about them, what you didn't like, and really just kind of think about, you know, which one you want to move forward with. And definitely let them know, you know, within the day or two that you've spoken to everyone if you want to move forward, because scheduling does get a bit tricky, especially if the therapist is, you know, very busy. So making sure that you follow up with them within a few days is important. An important tip that I think is really essential is if you're calling therapists and they don't answer, I always recommend to leave a message. I prefer if a client calls and I don't answer that they leave me a message. Sometimes even like, hey, like a text message, call me back when you can. That's not a problem. I tend to prefer a voicemail because I don't like to call back a number that I'm not familiar with. One, if it's a scam, because we do get scammed a lot. Or 2, if you're calling from a number that's not directly yours. I just don't want to kind of invade your privacy. So always leave a message, and always make a note if a therapist calls you back within a day or 2. We get busy, so sometimes we might not be able to call you that same day, but most often than not, a therapist would, more often than not, give you a call within a day or 2. So it's important to note that it might take that little bit of time for them to get back to you. So once you have all of those things and you've asked all of the right questions and you found your right therapist, making sure that you follow up and you do your appointments. You know, I always say give it a few sessions before you really establish if this person is not a good fit for you. Therapy is not a one and done thing. Oftentimes in the first session, you might not get what you're looking for because therapy is not a one and done thing. It does take a few sessions for a therapist to really get to know you. We're going through your whole life history and trying to get a sense of who you are as a person, what's the problem that you're having, and how we can help. So sometimes that does take a few sessions to really kind of get the wheels moving. So making sure that you're very upfront with them if something's off is also super crucial and important. I love when clients give me feedback if something's working or if there's not working, so I know that I'm on the right path. Another super important point when you're in therapy is to make sure that you're being honest. You know, we only know what you give us. So it's super important if something is happening or something needs to be said that you say it in order for us to really be able to have a clear picture of what's going on for you. So if you don't feel comfortable or if you feel kind of eerie, that's that essentially is a problem, but at the outset, therapy needs to requires a lot of vulnerability on the client to be open about what's going on, because that's the only way that we can help you in the best way that we can, is if we have all the details. So understanding that at the beginning, that this is going to be a process and it's going to require you to kind of be open and vulnerable. It's a scary thing, but it's super important in order for you to get what you need out of it. So understanding that that part is super crucial in therapy, I think, is very important if that's something that you're looking to do. And I think that's it. I think those are all the tips that I could provide in terms of finding a therapist and going through therapy. Obviously, there are times when I forget things, so I'll make sure to write it down in the blog below. And if you guys have any questions, definitely contact a therapist, ask them what therapy is for them. You know, we love when, you know, prospective clients ask us questions about the process. So don't be afraid. We're here to help. And, you know, if anything, you know, there's always research. There's a lot of articles about therapy, how therapy can be beneficial. There's a lot of content about how this can help you in your journey. So with that, I wish you good luck and see you on the next video. Bye, guys.